Ladies and gentlemen, the mics are on.
I know.
Ladies and gentlemen.
So he gave us cups.
Yeah.
How'd she know?
We come and just send the letter saying we're accepted.
6 Churchill, then big press and a Standard and a Tribune. Big article. You're ready for it? Too exciting, really.
Good evening, members of council, ladies and gentlemen, staff. I see that we have quorum, and I call this regular meeting for the Town of Pelham Council for Tuesday, September 2nd, to order. We will begin with an invocation, followed by the singing of the national anthem, and I would ask all to rise. I would actually like us to also have a moment of silence for a former firefighter that recently passed away, Don Dixon.
Yes.
Mr. Dixon served for 25 years as a member of the Fawn Hill Volunteer Fire Service. He was also president of the Fawn Hill Lions Club. He was on the Fawn Hill Hydro Commission for 17 years, and he also served for 50 years with the Masonic Lodge. And there are a number of other important activities that he was involved in our community. Mr. Dixon passed away on Saturday, August 23rd, in his 89th year, and I would ask all of us to take a moment of silence to remember him and his family, especially Betty, his wife. And we thank him again for his service to the community at a very important time in our community's growth as a member of the fire service. And now an invocation. Dear God, as many in our community are returning to the routines of school, work, sports, and other activities, please send your spirit upon this town council. Help us to become renewed in our commitment to the people in the town of Pelham. During our council meeting this evening, grant that we may demonstrate humility, listen with an open mind, and show wisdom in all our deliberations. Amen.
Amen.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot all, in all thy sons command, with glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Councillor Papp, for leading us in the national anthem. Now to the agenda. It's been moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Kersey, that the agenda for the September 2nd, 2014 regular meeting of Council be adopted. Are there any changes to the agenda? I would like to add one item, and that is I see J.J. Alexander and Rich Merlino here from Lookout. They want to report on what happened yesterday, and I wonder if we might add that. So I'm looking for a mover for that. Moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Durley. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Any other changes? So I'm going to call the question on the amended agenda. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. The next item is disclosure of pecuniary interest. That is any conflicts of interest. Do any members have any conflicts that they need to disclose at this time? Mr. Mayor. Can that be so noted in the minutes, please, Madam Clerk? Thank you. I would ask, now we'll move on to presentations. I would ask that Mr. Alexander and Mr. Merlino would come forward. They have a very special update on what happened yesterday, and they also have a special presentation. Thank you, JJ. How's your hand today? Your wrist?
A little storm, yeah, a little storm here. Mayor Dave Augustine, members of council, city staff, and the audience that are here with us today. I'd like to thank you for your time. I'm here on a follow-up on our 1,000-ball challenge that was held at Lookout Point yesterday. And I'm very proud to tell you all that it was a huge success. It was our second annual 1,000-ball challenge at Lookout Point, and this year it was to raise money for a wellspring that is being built here in town. I just have a few thank yous at this time, and I'd first like to thank the mayor, council, for allowing this development to happen in the city of Infant Hill. It is something that is needed, and I look forward to their partnership with them in the future. I'd also like to thank the board of directors, the management team, and all the members of Lookout Point for their support yesterday. When you put something like this on, it takes a big team for it to be a huge success, and without them, it wouldn't have happened. I'd also like to recognize Mayor Dave, who came and hit some golf balls yesterday and kept me company for a little while. I appreciate it. And also like to thank Steve Christie, the head golf professional of Peninsula Lakes, Chris Pawlowski, the head golf professional of Sparrow Lakes, who also contributed by selling some golf balls at their respective clubs, and also came along and hit some golf balls yesterday in support of Wellspring as well. It was a huge success. We hit 1,000 golf balls. It took me about 8 hours to do. My hands could show you that I did do it. Just a few other people to thank, and then Dave, I'll pass it over to Rich, but there was two people that I really like to thank, and it's Carly Duva and Dave Swib. Dave Swib had the, I don't know if it was the fortune or unfortunate pleasure of watching every shot that I hit yesterday, and I appreciate him for doing that, and Carly was the one who got a hold of everybody to get their support, and I thank her as well. And then lastly but not least was the volunteers from Wellspring. We had a bunch of volunteers there yesterday that helped out with the event, and they really helped the day move along, and had a barbecue and a whole whack of stuff going on, so special thanks to them. And also to Accelerated Health. They are our major title sponsor here in town. Mark Georgieff and Pat Madalena, who are the owners of Accelerated Health, contributed by buying over 100 golf balls themselves, donated prizes. They were there for the event. They are members of Lookout. They are members of our family, and without them, this event wouldn't happen. Lastly, I got Richard, our general manager, here with us, Rich Merlino. And out of those 1,000 balls this year, I was lucky enough to sink one of them. And there was a grand prize for us sinking a ball, and it happened to be Mr. John Durley. That ball was sunk, so it was number 503. So we have a check here to present. I'm going to let Rich have the honors.
Before we present the check, I just want to say, and I do want to recognize that Councillor Papp also came out yesterday to support the event, and we appreciate that. This individual here, it was no small feat, hitting 1,000 balls, starting at 7 o'clock in the morning and continuous right through till 3:30 in the afternoon was incredible. And JJ, we tip your hat to you because it's a wonderful cause and quite a feat. Thank you. The format of the 1,000 ball challenge was that anyone in the general public could purchase a $5 ball. And if the ball that you purchased, they were numbered, if that ball you purchased happened to go into the hole, you would win $500. And last year, JJ wasn't able to put one in the hole, so he's improved his game somewhat. And number 503 went in the hole, and we were ecstatic about that. What's interesting about 503 was that ball 504 and several balls after that were purchased by Mayor Dave, so he missed it by one.
Why not be, John? There you go.
So, Councillor John Durley, congratulations. We do have a check that we'd like to present to you, and if maybe if you come up and we can present it in front of the gallery.
Hey, good for you, John.
I'm not sure where the appropriate place to
Wherever you
stand.
want, you could do it here. You could.
It's a very big check.
Way to go, John.
So it's a $500 check that goes to Mr. Durley for his contribution, and his ball went into the hole. Thank you.
Thanks, Rich. Thanks, JJ. I will be getting a donation to Wellspring from that as well.
Oh, wonderful.
Oh, that's
We
great.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Just before you guys, going to ask how much
The
you
amount
raised?
that we raised, yes.
Yeah.
Well, with Mr. Durley's donation, our total dollars raised were $6,500.
Wow, awesome.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming in to do that and to continue to do this event. It's very important, and we're so pleased that folks like you are coming on board with Wellspring and supporting their move to a new Pelham home. I had the pleasure of speaking with a number of volunteers yesterday. They were just ecstatic about the move and ecstatic about the welcome that they're getting in our community, and you are part of that welcome. So thank you to you, JJ, and to all of Lookout, Rich. So please pass along our thanks to them and congratulations.
Appreciate that. Thank you very
Thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks for having us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Good going. Good going.
And congratulations, Councillor Durley.
Yeah.
Now to the regular agenda, and that includes some other presentations. The first is by Kerry Thomas, who's representing Community Living Welland Pelham, and he's going to tell us a little bit about an annual walkathon. Mr. Thomas, how are you?
Not too bad. My hands just sort of hurt thinking about hitting 1,000 golf balls, so good on him. Mayor Dave, members of council, and thank you for having me again this year. It was about this time last year I was here talking about Community Living Welland Pelham's 60th anniversary and our annual walkathon. And last year we decided we would move our walkathon to Pelham, as we are Community Living Welland Pelham, and we weren't necessarily doing a lot of events here. And I think it was one of the best ideas we've had is to move it to this community. So this year we are once again going to have our walkathon here at Peace Park on September 13th, which is a Saturday. And the reason why this move I think is important is Peace Park is a real community feel to that park with the band shell and then just the area there, and then the walk down to the Steve Bauer Trail. This year the construction's done, so a little nicer. So again, we're going to follow sort of the same theme. There's going to be a bit of a warm-up. Last year I think we did Zumba. This year Deb Zara has offered her yoga expertise. Many of you know Deb. So she's going to warm us up with some yoga. We're then going to head down to the Steve Bauer Trail, walk to the Welland Line and back. And then afterwards there's going to be some food, some fun. Dan Kozar, the local musician, is going to be doing the entertainment this year in the band shell. And really at the end of the day, we really just want people to come and have a good time. Fundraising is important. All the money from this walk goes back to Community Living Welland Pelham to help support some accessible transportation. We don't receive any extra dollars for vans or retrofitting vans, and if anybody's had any experience with that, we know that making a van into a wheelchair van is quite costly. So we were actually able to raise a little over $10,000 last year with this walk. So we're hoping that we're going to continue to grow this and be successful in this town. So I'm personally here to invite you to come out if you're available. Come see what it's all about. Even if you don't want to come and walk or donate, just come and have a good time afterwards. And again, so Community Living Welland Pelham, our vision is that of an inclusive, caring community where all people belong and have equal opportunity to participate effectively. And again, so being able to be involved in our community oftentimes involves being able to get to places and do things. So transportation is really important. So that's sort of my real quick presentation, and I'd be more than happy to answer questions if anybody has any.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thomas, for your presentation, for updating us on that event. Do any members of council have any questions for our presenter? Councillor Powell?
No, just Kerry, through you, Mr. What time is it, Kerry?
So registration's at 9:30. We're going to do the warm-up at 10. Then we're going to walk at 10:15, and however long that takes people. And then I think we'll shut everything down around 1 o'clock.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Will there be food as well?
Yes,
Last year there was
will be
food.
Deb,
Perfect.
again, is pizza and whatever sides that she's going to bring as well.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Any other questions for our presenter? I had the pleasure of participating last year. I think it was on a Sunday, so
It was
maybe
on a
it might
Sunday
be
last year, yeah.
a little bit more
Sure.
activity on a Saturday and maybe some more people walking by, etc. It was a great event, and I'd encourage all members of council and the community to attend. Thank you again, Mr.
Thank you
Thomas.
very
We're
much.
so pleased that you're organizing this event. I look forward to seeing you on the 13th.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care. Our next presenter is Kathy Miller, representing the Alzheimer's Society of Niagara regarding the annual coffee break. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. It's great to be listening to so many wonderful fundraisers going on and such great support. Mayor Augustine, members of council, staff, and members of the public, I am Kathy Miller and I'm on the board of the Alzheimer's Society. I would like to thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak to you about the 19th annual Coffee Break campaign. The Niagara Society is inspired the Coffee Break, which has now become, across Canada, a major fundraiser for the Alzheimer's societies. National Coffee Break Day is Thursday, September 18th, and more than 10,000 coffee breaks are expected to take place across the country. In the Niagara region, our campaign will kick off on the 18th, but it runs through till the end of December. Hosted by volunteers, coffee breaks give an opportunity to invite your fellow workers, family, friends, customers to a place where they can enjoy a coffee or any other preferred beverage. Maybe in Niagara region, we enjoy our wines. It's an opportunity to have a drink, to socialize, and to make a donation to this cause. It's important that we get behind this in Niagara because all of the funds that are raised in Niagara stay in Niagara, and they are used to improve the quality of life for those who are suffering with some sort of dementia and for their caregivers. Hosting a coffee break is very fun. I've done a few myself, and I've done them in different ways. The society is very helpful. They provide you with a kit and promotional information. And you can choose any day. You can do it on September 18th, or you can do it at a date much more convenient to you and your friends, family, or co-workers, right through to the end of December. Coffee breaks are held everywhere, and they do take on different venues and different activities. It can be just having coffee break, it can be an open house, it can be a barbecue. Maybe if your place of business has a dress down day, you could devote those funds for a week or a month to the Alzheimer's Society. This year's campaign will kick off as the Grantham Lioness Club will hold their coffee break on the 18th at their hall on Niagara Street. The Lioness have raised more than $40,000 to date in their coffee breaks. That's a significant amount of money, just starting small and growing each year. Also on that day, the Niagara Marine Industry Charitable Council will jumpstart the campaign with their annual very generous donation. There are also a couple of other region-wide events that I'd like to make you aware of. The Bulk Barn will be offering their clients, or customers, the opportunity to make a donation at the cash register with their little coffee cup cutouts, and that will happen between September 5th and September 21st at all of the Bulk Barns. Also, on November 20th, 20 Avondale stores throughout Niagara will be donating the profit that they make, 20% of the profit that they make on selling coffee. So that's good. Mm-hmm. And I just want to remind you of why it's so important to have this campaign. Ontario is on the verge of a crisis. Our population is aging, and the number of people with dementia is increasing exponentially. Today in Ontario, there are 210,000 people living with dementia. By the end of the decade, just 2020, that number is expected to exceed 255,000 people. The Alzheimer's societies across Ontario have been warning of the significant increase and the need to respond before the number of people requiring help overwhelms the health and social system. We advocate for change to ensure that every single person living with dementia, as well as their family and caregivers, gets the help they need when they need it. Here in Niagara, there are currently over 8,670 people experiencing progressive dementia, and this number continues to grow. Our Alzheimer's Society's mission is to advocate for people with dementia and their care partners, and to provide them with access to a diverse range of programming. We hope to allow them to stay in their home, remaining as independent as possible and in the community. With no known cure for Alzheimer's, it is very important that people with dementia continue physical activity. It has been shown that physical activity does decrease or slow the progress of the dementia. It's also important that those people without dementia remain physically fit. This could mean a potential cost savings in healthcare, and this figure, I think, is so significant and important if you're thinking about getting fit. This cost savings would be between $880 and $970 million every year. Good reason to get fit. Each year, our society must fundraise for approximately $600,000 of the $1.9 million budget, and Coffee Break is our signature event. Thanks to your council, this council, and over 300 other hosts, we raised $90,000 last year. This year, we're asking for your support to make our goal of $100,000. I encourage everyone to consider hosting your own coffee break event and make your coffee count. 74% of Canadians know someone with dementia. Please support your own Niagara community, maybe even a loved one, by choosing to make a difference today and provide hope for tomorrow. Anyone can register to host a coffee break by just getting in touch with the Alzheimer's Society of Niagara Region at 905-687-3914 or by visiting the Alzheimer website. Thank you again for your time and consideration, and I really do hope you will participate in this worthwhile endeavor. Mayor Augustine, I'd like to present you with your coffee break host kit.
I can come around. I'll come around. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that, and we continue to host a coffee break here at Town Hall, and we invite members of the public to join in, and members of council to join in, and of course, our staff as well.
Okay, thank you so much. Thanks for your generosity.
presentation. Thank you. Thank you again to Ms. Miller for her presentation, representing the Alzheimer's Society of Niagara Region and talking about the excellent work that they do. It is staggering, unfortunately, to see the how that number continues to grow, the number of people experiencing progressive dementia in our community. So we would encourage all to support the Alzheimer's Society through the coffee break this fall. Now we move to delegations, and we have members of our Communities in Bloom here and other allied committees that have been assisting with this, but we have Cheryl Petrie, who's going to be giving us a delegation, a presentation regarding the work that they are working on, and perhaps you can, I don't want to put you on the spot, but identify and introduce those members that are with you here tonight.
Good evening, Mayor Augustine, members of council, everybody else. My name is Cheryl Petrie. I'm representing Communities in Bloom. This is Maria McMillan. She's representing the Pelham Horticultural Society, and Jane Hanlon is representing Green in Niagara. We previously attended the December 2nd meeting seeking support in principle for a community garden in Pelham. And tonight we're here to present our business plan. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's a little big. I'm just going to hit the highlights. So,
Thank you.
just warning. So basically, the community garden is a collaborative project to build a community garden in the town of Pelham. And the participants are Communities in Bloom, Horticultural Society, and Green Niagara. Our reason for doing this is to create a green space within the town of Pelham, accessible to all residents to grow their own organic food, and the opportunity to share knowledge, engage in physical activity, and create a sustainable project for generations to come. We propose to get this done by sustainability on ongoing commitment from all parties, and in the package we also have a application for the gardeners so that they fill that out and we have their commitment as well. A strong and dedicated network of volunteers, which we've gathered over the course of having done the survey and the open house, where a number of people showed interest in the project and were more than willing to volunteer their time, their money, their supplies. So that was very encouraging. And naturally with the support of the town and just getting out there and start digging and getting dirty and getting this garden done. Basically, the mission is to provide a low-cost opportunity for Pelham residents to access and enjoy the benefits of gardening, improve green space, because a garden is pretty, and our garden is going to be extremely pretty and very well kept. It's great physical activity, because every summer I probably lose about 10 pounds gardening. Then there's the whole educational aspect, where we'll be having different workshops and on-site education for people who aren't familiar with gardening. There's going to be, like, there's always, all of us are gardeners, so there'll always be someone there to encourage or help or show someone if they're not sure how to plant something or what to plant. And people get to grow their own food, they get to eat healthier, and it's just a win-win situation when you have a community garden, or any garden for that matter. I'm not going to get into who we are, because you all know who we are. I've basically listed what each committee does and the ongoing projects that we have. There are, for Greening Niagara, there are now 20 gardens in the Niagara region. Jane gave me an update earlier this week, so I just wanted to add that. The market research, we had presented our survey results at the December 2nd meeting, and which is included in your package. And after that, we did the open house, where we had a really good turnout, and we had a lot of positive input, and through all of that, we basically came to the conclusion that the location, the best location for the garden would be at the arena. In your packages, we also have the pictures of the area at the arena. There are drawings done by Bill, because he's an excellent drawer. And the site evaluation, which basically told us that this is an ideal site for a garden. It's got pretty much everything we would need. Let me see here. There are a few needs that we have, like a water source, which I understand there's a building that's going to be, a new building that's going to be built beside the arena, and we're hoping that we'll be able to have a line run from there and have the water spigot, which will not be, it'll be similar to the one in the cemetery, where you have to manually use it, so it's not going to be left running or anything like that, so we won't be wasting anything. The insurance, which is covered by the town, and most importantly, the sustainability of this project through ongoing commitments from all the parties involved, including the group of volunteers that will be gathering once this project gets off the ground. So basically, the operations is to establish the rules to govern community garden, meet with volunteers and gardeners, schedule for construction of the community garden. We'll be having a building day event with a barbecue, and the introduction of workshops and educational events further on. We've included a budget, a 3-year budget. Now, everything is in here that we would need, basically, because until we approach people and have a definite commitment as to what donations we might receive, we felt that it would be better to put all the numbers in here. So it doesn't, you know, because we thought long and hard about exactly what we would need. And we were very, very frugal, or as frugal as we could be after a few arguments. So basically, the rest are just the attachments with all the information on here, including examples of workshops that would be held during the course of the year. And that is pretty much it. Basically, we're seeking the original amount that we were asking for in December of 10,000 to start up our community garden and for the 3-year project and then hopefully ongoing. We have some potential sources of revenue. We'll be renting the plots to the gardeners, so that would be one. The sale of the comfort maple seedlings could possibly be another one as well. And then just whatever else we can think of, because we're always coming up with ideas. We're thinking about selling bulbs this year, and there's always something floating around to make money, so I think that's it. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you very much, Ms. Petrie, for your presentation. Very comprehensive as well, and you've given us a complete package that we were able to review before your presentation, so thank you very much for that. Do any members of council have any questions for our presenter at this time? Councillor Papp.
First of all, a very comprehensive business plan. We need the details. These may seem obvious questions. I don't know whether you can answer them or whether the town staff can and help me. You said there's 20 municipal gardens. Is it greening Niagara throughout Niagara?
Yes.
Is that correct? How many of those gardens are on municipal property?
Jane could probably answer that question.
And can you identify those for us, if you don't mind?
City of St. Catharines,
Okay.
Centennial Park.
Okay, I'm familiar with that. Okay.
Never mind. I'd have to
That's okay.
We're working with the list all day, and I've got too many gardens
Yeah.
in my mind.
My question, Mr. Mayor, as you see where I'm going with this, is that this is municipal property that you are going to be dealing with, and we need to ensure that we have a understanding contractually of who's going to be responsible ultimately, because you're going to be leasing out the land, as I understand it. Is that correct? So if I wanted to get a plot of land, I would be leasing it from you?
Yes.
From you or the town?
Well,
We need to work those out,
yeah.
right? Because I'm not a stickler for detail. I just want to make sure that, because where there are possible, I use this word constantly, of unionization, to make sure that there's no issues that arise later on, so. Yep. Can someone help? Sure.
Hamlet, go ahead.
If you can help me, I would really appreciate it, so I understand.
City of St. Catharines, we have a 5-year lease that has just been continued for another 5 years. Within that, there is legalese that lays out whether there's fencing, signage, and all the other parameters. The insurances are done through Greening Niagara, and then the city is labeled on our insurance policy and provided a certificate. So I'm assuming the same would be done here. We did provide a copy of that to your staff.
Okay. That's my question. So we have that agreement. That's very helpful. That makes things a lot simpler. And then your request is for $10,000 for this year, or is it?
It would be over the next 3 years.
I think there was money already earmarked for this.
Is there? I'm
Councillor Papp,
sorry,
so
I
we can hear-
wasn't here for that, so.
Well, it was earmarked during the budget processing, and asked the
The money
treasurer,
there?
Madam Treasurer.
Yes, through you. There's $10,000 that we earmarked in the capital budget.
Thank you. Councillor?
Yeah, so you answered my question, and I'm not being picky. I'm just saying that if there's an agreement with the city of St. Catharines, we'll follow the same protocol, I presume, right? And making those arrangements for the use of the land and how that'll take place. So there's no misunderstanding of how this is taken, how it would be undertaken. Fine, all the questions have been answered. I'm satisfied. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you very much, Councillor. Any other questions? Just describe, can you describe to us, thank you for your presentation, can you describe to us where the plot would be? You said it was sort of, I can follow the drawing, but just for those that are in the audience, so it's near, as you drive into the arena, is that correct?
To the arena. The arena's there. Then on your left is that large empty plot of land that goes right to, that would be the area.
Okay.
Not the entire area,
Yeah.
but that would be the general area.
Okay, perfect. So now I can tell from the drawing exactly where the northwest, east, south, is, so that's perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that. And then we do have some buildings that are going up there, and I guess maybe staff can answer this, that the water, which was in the presentation, water would then be in that area, is that correct? And I'm looking to Ms. Van Ravensway or Mr. Mantle?
Yes, there's water in that area.
Okay, perfect. And that's part of the business case as well. Okay, those are all my questions. Any other questions from members of council?
Just a
Councillor
quick
Powell?
look through, Cheryl, just the schedule, so when do you normally start? Just to help me, you would start April, cultivating, getting everything ready, and then shutting it down, what, September, October roughly?
Yes. Now, ideally, if possible, we'd like to start breaking the land this fall, or like breaking the soil this fall.
Okay.
And prepare it for the spring.
Prepare it, okay.
Because that way we can, it'll be fertilized and a little more nutritious for growing, yes.
The only reason I say that, I used to have an Italian garden, and I haven't done anything for 10 years. So I'm kind of curious, and I was at some place yesterday where just simply marvelous, the way the garden looked, and my curiosity was piqued with this. That's why I was trying to figure out if the money's there and we give you approval, then you can go ahead and start with this now. I think that's what I'm hearing.
Yes, so we do have a motion.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you very much for your presentation. I do have a motion. It's been moved by Councillor Kersey, seconded by Councillor Lane, that the information presented by the Communities in Bloom Committee outlining their business plan to develop a community garden with a proposed location being the Pelham Arena property on Hay Street be received, and that the town support this initiative as outlined in the business plan, including the proposed location at the Pelham Arena and expenses as outlined in the business plan. Mr. CEO, I asked you, as Councillor Papp was asking his question about legal agreements and all that. So I think if we were to approve this, do we need to include anything in this recommendation, or would it be understood? Mr. CEO?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would appreciate if council was to direct that staff enter into a lease as described, so that the necessary legal and liability issues are taken care of.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Papp, you'll
So
move
moved.
that?
Yep.
And second by Councillor Kersey. Any discussion regarding that amendment? All those in favor? Any opposed? That amendment is carried. And now to the main motion as amended with the caveat of entering into a lease. Any further discussion? Sounds like a great idea, and other communities have it across the region, and we look forward to working together with you on this. Thank you very much for your work. Again, very comprehensive package, and we look forward to this becoming a reality. So I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried unanimously. Thank you so much for your work, and we look forward to this becoming a reality and some sort of launch in the spring. Councillor Papp?
No, I just want to be clear, so they could start now?
Let's get the lease first.
I think
Once the lease is
what's going to
signed.
be happening is the lease agreement.
When the
yeah.
lease comes back, then
Yeah.
they can start. Okay, good.
So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks again. Thank you. Next on the agenda traditionally would be the report of our regional councillor, Councillor Beatty. I did see Councillor Beatty today because all the committee meetings at the region have restarted. So we can look forward to Councillor Beatty at our next meeting on the 15th. I did provide council, actually I should mention this, I did provide council with some information regarding intermunicipal transit, which was to be discussed at the Public Works Committee. It was actually late request to defer it until our next meeting on the 23rd, I think, of September. We had that request from the students at Brock University and Niagara College. So council, if you didn't get a chance to look at that, you can use the next couple of weeks to take a look at it and if you're interested in giving me some feedback, of course, I'd be very open to it. Now we move to minutes. It's been moved by Councillor Kersey, second by Councillor Lane. The following minutes be adopted as printed and circulated in red. Minutes of our council meeting of August 25th and minutes of our special meeting of council on August 5th, which was then continued on August 25th. Are there any errors or omissions in those minutes? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Next is consent agenda items to be considered in block. There are a number of items. I wonder if any members have any items they'd like to lift for separate consideration. I do have two members that signaled this before the meeting. First was Councillor Rubiak. Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to lift one of the proposals in the Policies and Priority Committee recommendations that are put forward, specifically recommendation number 201408260002 regarding drainage issues.
Okay, thank you. So that will be lifted. And Councillor Kersey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also would like to lift 11.2.1 recommendation number 201408250045, specifically with respect to council appointments to advisory committees.
Okay, thank you. Any other items to be lifted for separate consideration? Clerk is just taking note of that, so just give us a second. Thank you, Madam Clerk. It's been moved by Councillor Lane, seconded by Councillor Kersey. The following consent agenda items be received and the recommendations contained therein be approved as applicable. Recommendations of Policy and Priorities Committee of October 25th, save and except for the two resolutions that were lifted, one regarding drainage on Balfour and the second regarding council appointments to committees. The second is the minutes of the Policy and Priorities Committee of August 25th. Third, staff reports of routine nature. There aren't any, but there are action correspondence of a routine nature. The first is from the Royal Canadian Legion, branch 613, regarding a letter of non-objection. And the resolution is that the August 24th, 2014 correspondence from the Royal Canadian Legion, branch 613, be received, and the request to use the fenced-off area east and south of their existing patio on September 28th for the annual golf barbecue be approved, and the clerk be directed to advise the Legion. The second item is the Avondale Post Office and Post Office in Fenwick. And the recommendation is that the correspondence from the owners of the Avondale Post Office Depot in Fenwick requesting that 3 parking spaces adjacent to their building be posted as 15-minute parking be received and referred to the Director of Public Works for investigation and report. And we also have information correspondence item, a thank you card from Councillor Lane. Any discussion on any of those items? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Next on the floor, I guess, Madam Clerk, is the drainage issue, and the matter that's on the floor is the one that was approved in committee. Is that correct? Okay. Sure. And I'll turn to you, Councillor. I have it here. It's in the report, right? So that the issue summary report drainage request 1941 Balfour Street be received, and the committee recommended council approve the drainage works to be completed on private property to construct an adequate outlet without the benefit of creating a municipal drain at a cost of $50,000, which is not recoverable from benefiting properties, and that improvements for this drain be later incorporated into a municipal drain, thereby allowing for maintenance costs to be assessed to benefiting property owners. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you and colleagues are aware, based on an email that I sent earlier, I have concerns with this recommendation, and in order to give us the opportunity to discuss those concerns, I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead.
And the motion is that Policy and Priorities Committee recommendation number 201408260002 regarding drainage issues at 1941 Balfour Street be replaced with the original recommendation as contained in the issue summary report as follows, and that staff be directed to expedite the drainage petition process. that the issue summary report municipal drain request at 1941 Balfour Street be received, and that committee recommend to council that the petition for drainage works Form 1 be accepted for the creation of a municipal drain to serve and relieve flooding at 1941 Balfour Street, and that a drainage engineer be appointed to prepare a report and oversee any works recommended by his report in accordance with the Drainage Act. And I believe, Mr. Mayor, if you look, you will see that this is seconded by Councillor Kersey.
Okay, thank you.
So, let me...
Pass that along, please.
I will.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you. I guess the value of our process is that we get a second chance to look at our decisions. We looked at this one in committee and had a considerable amount of discussion, but I believe that the discussion we had did not cover everything, and perhaps given an opportunity to consider further, we might consider a different outcome than we had originally. My concerns are about three things arising from that discussion. First, with regard to timing. The committee made the recommendation that we did because it seemed to us that the town taking direct action to install an adequate tile system on private property would be faster than installing the system following the municipal drain process. However, all the same engineering and procurement processes need to happen before the system will be installed, so regardless, nothing is going to happen very quickly. What we did not talk about, and perhaps we'll have the opportunity to talk about this evening with advice from staff, is that the municipal drain legislation provides that anything that is done is on private property comes as though it were an easement, and we did not discuss at all whether there would be a requirement for an easement if we were going to proceed with this work on private property, and that of course might take some time as well if it's required. So I guess the first item is that while we wanted to do something that had some speed attached to it, perhaps there wouldn't be as much speed as we thought, and perhaps it wouldn't take much more time or less time than proceeding through the process in the first place. So that's the first thing that I was concerned about. The second was with regard to cost. We did talk about the cost of installing the system on private property, but not so much the cost sharing of the system if it were installed as part of a municipal drain. The Municipal Drain Act provides for, I believe, considerable cost sharing for the creation of a municipal drain, so quite apart from the cost being borne by residents, which of course is different than being borne by the town in the affected watershed, those costs would be significantly lower for them than for the town. So we have the notion that if we proceeded, we would be paying one sum of money. If we proceeded along the process of creating a municipal drain, the sum of money needed to pay for it from within the town would be considerably less. And I don't know that we talked about that quite enough. I don't think we talked about how much of that money would be affected by terms of the Municipal Drain Act. And then, of course, if indeed an easement is required, there are costs associated with that we didn't discuss at all. But my greatest concern is with regard to the impact. The acceptance of the recommendation will create a precedent in this town which might be applied to other similar situations. I personally know of, and I believe that colleagues probably know of situations as well, that are problems that might be helped by this kind of direct intervention in which the systems, if we were to apply them there, would be larger, more complex, might involve more than one property, and therefore could potentially be considerably more expensive than this one. I'm concerned that we may be setting ourselves up for difficult decisions in the future concerning greater expense, greater access to private property. And I believe that if we proceed along the process as outlined within the Municipal Drain Act, which indeed was created for this purpose and kind of predicts all of these issues, I think we'll get there faster, we'll do as well, and it probably won't cost us nearly as much. And so I would urge colleagues to consider the amendment or the motion that I put forward just a moment ago. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Others to the motion? Councillor Papp?
Well, thank you, Councillor Ribbiak. Good, very valid points. I know we had an extensive discussion. Just curious from the point of view of, I'm always just as well concerned about setting precedent. because it becomes one off, one off, one off, and then we end up in a situation where we're trying to, instead of solving a whole problem, we're piecing it off. But on those if I may, through you, Mr. Mayor, through you, Mr. CEO, Mr. Mantle, have we ever done anything like what has been proposed here, that we've actually went on a private property and did any sort of drainage repair along this nature?
Mr. Mantle?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't recall any, excuse me, any actions like that in the past. No, it's always been through the Drainage Act.
Through the Drainage Act?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you. Others? Councillor Kersey and then Councillor Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was pleased to second the motion for all, because I agree with virtually everything that the councillor put forward. I think the province has enacted the Drainage Act for specifically these circumstances with a very extensive outline of how the process is to work and how the costs are to be apportioned. And I think for us to stray from that would set an unnecessary and dangerous precedent that could come back to haunt the town in the future. So I'm very happy to support the motion as presented.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lane and then Councillor Durley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess my concern here is not so much that we've talked about it and we've had come to a decision, but my concern still remains the fact that by us doing nothing and taking the approach that my colleague is suggesting, that we haven't addressed the issue of flooding of a municipal road, which still in fact happens. And if we don't address that, we may be in even more of a critical situation should there be some incident, accident, whatever you want to call it, should somebody come upon a flooded road and not realize it's flooded, and therefore we could be at the same time liable for something there. So I think we need to take into account both sets of situations, not just flooding and what have you on private property, but the fact that a municipal road does in fact flood, and all we're doing here is we're going to wait until we take it through the municipal drain procedure, which could be upwards of 5 years. So are we prepared to live with that? So be it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Durley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To you, during the debate at P&P, I certainly had concerns of, and I think you can recall, I mentioned the precedent setting and going on to private property, which is a real concern, and that certainly is an important point here. The fact that was brought up by my colleague as far as the road flooding, I'm just wondering if, in fact, we have two different situations here. If the private property is dealt with under the Drainage Act, could something be done as far as roadside ditching or something to decrease the impact of weather events on the road and the flooding there? This is what I'm looking at. Let the Drainage Act take care of the problem of moving the water out of there. But if there is something that we may do in the interim to decrease the threat of problems as far as the road flooding is concerned, but certainly I would really not hesitate to vote to go under the Drainage Act, which is meant to do this, and it certainly gives us some protections as well. So that's the point. But the flooding issue still remains, so I think we may look for an alternative to ease that situation, and I think that's an important thing. We're maybe looking at two different things in this particular case. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Durley. Just to that point, Mr. Mantle, can that be something that you can look at and report back to us on regarding the flooding, and whether some changes to the roadside ditches would help alleviate the flooding and the concerns of a couple of members of council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, there's nothing we can do with the ditches right now. It's the outlet on private property that's the issue right now. The ditches drain to that low spot, so the water has no place to go. So something we have looked at is signage, warning signs that road may water over road during heavy rains, something along those those lines. Just post the signs on a permanent basis until the issue is corrected.
Okay, thank you. Other members for first time? Mr. Mantle, one of the key concerns of council last meeting was, and it was raised again this evening, was how quickly this can happen. And I think Mr. Jackson spoke at that meeting. He said, well, it can take anywhere between 1 and 5 years. How quickly can this process move along? How quickly can we move this forward? I guess I'm thinking about Councillor Ribbiak's first point of speed, of timing. Can you just outline that?
Well, there's certain processes that staff work through, and it's a request for proposal with respect to the engineer. An engineer is required to do the design. That can be done relatively quickly. You send it to several drainage type engineers, ask for a price based on certain terms of reference, and they provide that price. You immediately approve the work and they proceed. You give them timelines to work to. We did contact a drainage engineer on Friday just to look to see, you know, are staff available to do that sort of thing, and they said something like that, you know, you may be able to get it done in 5 months. Again, it depends on the people that you're dealing with. If the landowners provide any kind of, if there's any backlash or any difficulty there, that could prolong the process, because it's sort of a working process. You don't know how it's going to end up until you've met. There's certain designated processes that you work through. Meet on site, provide reports back to council, all those kind of things for approval. So again, it's all dependent on, I guess, human nature. But
Okay.
he did indicate that, you know, if all things went well, you could probably be ready to go in 5 months.
Mr. Mantle, I understand we'll be looking at sort of the watershed or the drainage area, I guess is the correct terminology. And I know council wanted to move very quickly on the outlet portion, the lower portion of that drainage area. Is there an opportunity of ever splitting it through the process? So if, for instance, some upland property owners are having some difficulty or trying to come to some sort of process, meanwhile downstream, as it were, or down drain, you know, there's agreement. Is that a possibility as well?
Well, I think the Drainage Act prescribes what's required, and the drainage engineer, like what we may think is appropriate, the drainage engineer may take a look at the work to be done, and he's required to take that water to a suitable outlet. He just can't discharge to the next door neighbor and ignore that. So whatever he does has to be taken in context with the downstream water course also.
But you don't know, you're not aware of any opportunity to split the process out?
I'm not a...
Okay, it might be something to look at if we get to a point where somebody says, you know, I don't want you to do something here, but maybe the downstream owners are saying, look, please, by all means, you know, put this drain in. Maybe that process can be looked at as well. Thank you very much, Mr. Mantle. Any other comments from colleagues? We ready for calling of the question? Going to then call the question on the motion. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Does that replace the entire motion? It does, does it not? Do we have to vote again? Or? Okay, so that replaces the entire motion, so the matter has been dealt with. Thank you very much. We look forward to that expedited process and hearing a little bit more about that, Mr. Mantle, as things progress. Hopefully we can be in that 5-month time period. Thank you. The next item that was raised, Councillor Kersey raised it. It was regarding committee appointments, and the motion is that the issue summary report, council appointments to committees be received, and the staff be directed to examine and reformat the committee's terms of reference to reflect the creative problem-solving process used by the town of Pelham, and to remove the appointment from a member of council to the committees, and that the terms of reference clearly delineate the role of the committee as either an advisory or working group function. Councillor Kersey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I am supportive of the majority of this motion. There are a couple of areas that I'm not, and that I do have some concerns about. So I do have a motion that I'd like to present, Mr. Mayor. The motion reads that Policy and Priorities Committee recommendation 2014082545 regarding council appointments to advisory committees be referred to the next regular Policy and Priorities Committee meeting scheduled for September 15th, 2014 for further discussion, and that staff be directed to poll all advisory and working committees seeking their views on council representation on their relative or respective committees to be included with the discussion on September 15th. And this motion is presented by myself and seconded by Councillor Ribbiak.
Go ahead, sir.
Specifically, well, let me begin by saying that I agree with the intent of the recommendation, with the exception of the removal of the appointment of members of council. And I may change my mind on that. I think my request that a poll of the volunteers that sit on those various committees is a piece that we were lacking or was lacking in the discussion. I think people volunteered and got involved in those committees based on a certain term of reference, some of which contained their expectation that there would be councillors on those committees and serving with them. Many of them, I think, would feel that they had been overlooked if they weren't given the opportunity to comment on that and have their input put into the process. And may well be that they feel after working with a councillor on their committee that they don't want a councillor on their committee for one reason or another. On the other hand, there may be committees that don't have a councillor there that may feel that they would have liked to have seen that for one reason or another. Having brought this forward, I really want to say categorically that I would still like to see staff continue to pursue the gist of the recommendation, which was the standardization of the committee structures, reformatting them into the creative problem-solving format that we've adopted as our documentation in the town. But I also would like council to have the opportunity to perhaps have a sober look at what our expectations of committees are. How do we populate those committees? Are we just looking for warm bodies to take up space and be there, or are we looking for real expertise on these various committees? And then how do we go about achieving that expertise that we'd like to have on the committees? So that's the gist of the recommendation or the request or the motion that I brought forward, is that we take it back to P&P, have another look at it, with the advantage of having this poll being conducted, and also maybe an opportunity to look at the overall wishes of this council, what our expectations are of the whole committee process. We've endorsed this over the last 4 years of this particular council in a big way, feeling very strongly that we need public involvement in our decision-making process.
Yes.
And so I would just like to, maybe we have an opportunity now to review it before we go ahead and commit it something to stone. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Other members of council speak to this? Councillor Papp?
Yeah, I concur. I've had second thoughts about it, and then also I've had some very positive reinforcement of number one, understanding what the role is of committees and what their expectations are, and also commenting on what they expect from us as the council representatives and how to carry out our duties. So I couldn't agree more. It's not destructive. It's just they're trying to figure out is that, are we of, let's put it this way, when councillors are there, are we of usefulness to them? And the answer is yes. So the question is, how do we factor that in? Is there another way of structuring that? And I think it's a worthwhile discussion to take place. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Other members? Councillor Durley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a sober second thought as well on that, and in talking to a few members of committees, of which I am part of and have been part of, the comments I have heard is that the value of a person from council being on these committees is invaluable, really, because the communication that goes by and the knowledge sharing and the ability to direct the committee to the proper staff in order to get proper answers and so on and so forth is vital to some people. So I would really like to see the feedback, as Councillor Kersey suggested, and just see what the committees are. If in fact what I'm hearing is not right, then certainly we can discuss that, but a second kick at this cat could certainly give us, I think, a little better direction to get to staff when restructuring in this. So I fully support that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor King.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that we had quite a discussion around this last week, and I'm happy to support the motion at hand. I think, like all of us, we've had a chance to sort of sit back and digest it a little bit further. I'm interested to hear the input that the various committees would have with respect to council's role, because there have been at times comments made that are on the negative side with the involvement of councillors on committees. So I think that getting that feedback from the various committees is probably instrumental in making a good, sound decision.
Very good.
There's pros and cons to everything, so let's hear what they have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ribbiak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was pleased to second the motion, although I was in support of and continued to be in support of the motion that we did last meeting. However, it's a big issue. I think it represents a sea change almost in the way we would observe committees, and I think that it's really important for us to have a consensus about this and a real satisfaction that the involvement of councillors, if it would continue on committees, serve real purpose. So in that discussion, I think it gives us the opportunity perhaps to outline some clarity with respect to what our expectations of the role of councillor is and what the role of staff is and the role of other participants. And I think fleshing that out is going to have all kinds of value. So I will support bringing this back to P&P and look forward to the discussion that results from that.
Okay, thank you. Any others? I just want to comment, and the CEO and I had a good long discussion about this as well, and certainly appreciate the discussion this evening. And I think it is important for us to look at this. Really, what we're doing here is trying to establish for next term what the committee structure would look like. And we have changed our committee structure. For example, the meeting that we're going to be having following council is committee of the whole. So that did change, and I think maybe some of the committees that were set up a few years ago haven't met those changes. So it's important to look at this and see if there might be some consistency. And we might clarify the roles of councillors, clarify the roles of staff, are the right staff on the right committees, and also clarify the role of committees themselves, which is clearly in the recommendation. And I did have a chance to speak to Councillor Kersey this afternoon, and I appreciate that. And I was reminded again this evening when he spoke about the involvement of members of the public in committees. And certainly he was right to point out that it is one of our strategic goals, and in fact it's right up there, right? Involvement of residents and business in the activities of the municipality and decision-making of the municipality. And I think in many ways it's one of the things that Pelham can be proud of, and we can stand forward and say we're one of the communities that do that and welcome members of the public. But I also hearken back to, and I believe it was Councillor Kersey that raised this shortly after this term of council began, and we're all elected, in our strategic planning process, talking about there's a wealth of knowledge in our community, and many individuals want to become involved. And sort of the challenge, how might we involve those very, very skilled individuals in appropriate areas in our municipality? And I think when I look back to committees like the Architectural Design Advisory Committee, there are some very skilled members of the public there that are sharing their skills. Some of them do that particular job in their day job, and they're sharing their skills with us, in the evening at the committee level. So if there's a way that through this process we can also look at that, how might we get the very best people so that we can get the very best advice so that we can continue to move our community forward, I'm all in favor of taking a look at it. As I mentioned, I did speak to the CEO about this, and we may want to do, we'll see what the timing looks like, a creative problem-solving process on this issue, just to get a little bit more clarity, and we'll see. I would like to maybe do a little bit of a pre-consult in advance of that meeting to use some of the language of the creative problem-solving process. Maybe some members of staff, the CEO and I discussed it, maybe one or two members of council along with myself, just to kind of figure out what the 15th would look like, so that we can have a very valuable discussion and focus our resources and our minds to the problem at hand. So with your indulgence, we'll do that. So Councillor, if you could just pass the motion over, and Councillor Papp, you want to comment further?
Yeah, I think you somewhat read my mind too. The thing is that, I'll be very blunt. We've been able to attract very good committees, and we're building on that. The standardization of those committees in terms of reference are critical. Very frankly, having been here for a long time, the question is, what role do I play on these committees? And I'm not, like, what do we do? Because that's what I think we need to work through that whole process and figure out. And the comments I got from one, and I won't mention, they said, we want you there, but maybe not in the capacity of what you think it is. So, yes, I agree. Recruit the best possible people for our advisory committees. Get them there. My dilemma, and I'm just sharing this with you, is like, how do I fit in? What do I do? And like, how do I act? What do I, what sort of influence and what sort of impact? And I agree, every time that we've been involved, and Councillor Durley and I, we've been involved with other committee structures where we used to actually be the people that were in charge of those, right, John? We actually ran those committees. So all of this, and Councillor Ribiak with me on the fire station stuff and all that. So I think that would be a very worthwhile process to go through just to make sure we're clear, so we can delineate what our role is in governing and what our role is involved in that. So I couldn't agree with you more. I look forward to that.
Thank you very much, Councillor.
We should execute that.
It is important, and I did a little challenge map here, and at the top is how might we help councillors focus on their primary role, which is policy governance and fulfilling our strategic plan. So all of that, I think, aligns with that, and if we can keep that in mind as we have our discussion, I think it would be helpful. Any others? Okay, thank you. So Councillor Kersey, seconded by Councillor Ribiak, that we refer this to our September 15th, 2014 discussion, and that we poll all our advisory and working committees seeking their views of council representation. And then also incumbent in this is we may do a little bit of a pre-consult to make sure that we have a very powerful and constructive session on the 15th. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried, and we look forward to that. Thank you all. Good discussion. Thank you. Where are we? Is my report next? Next is my report. Some of it has been, you'll be pleased to know. I was to report on the 1,000-ball challenge, but it's great to have that report earlier this evening. And congratulations again, Councillor Durley, on that, and to Lookout Golf and J.J. Alexander. I did participate, along with many other people, as it were, into the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. I want to thank first those that challenged me. It was Tina Mosier from the Peddler Funeral Home who made the challenge, and I made a personal donation in memory of Bradley Watt, who had ALS. But I also want to thank all those who attended the special event when we did it. We did it with students on their last day here, and I want to thank Scott and Mitch for representing all summer students by throwing ice water on me and helping out with the challenge. So thank you very much. It was fun. Also, I had the pleasure of participating in the grand opening of the Julian School for Alternative Learners. Council will recall that we actually fast-tracked this a little bit, and they were very appreciative of our efforts to ensure that they had a home, and they were able to start in September, and here they are starting in September. So congratulations to Camille Julian Snellgrove, who's the principal, and all the members of the board for the Julian School for the grand opening, which is, somebody asked where it was. It's behind the new Massimo's location in Uptown Fonthill, as it were. So look for it there amid the construction and the dust. The Julian School is an accredited private school for students with special learning needs, and their curriculum is in accordance with the Ministry of Education guidelines, with a goal to equip students to become confident, independent, and contributing members of the community. So congratulations to Camille and other members of the Julian School. That is my report. It has been moved by Councillor King, seconded by Councillor Ribiak, that my report for September 2nd, 2014 be received for information. Councillor Papp, you had a question?
No, 30-second suggestion that based on the amount of money that was raised for Wellspring through Lookout, can we have a formal presentation at some point and maybe invite Ms. Mantini here as a show of our public continuation? I don't know. I'm just thinking it's so significant.
Yeah.
Especially, we've made the move to bring them in.
Mr. Ottaway,
I'll leave it up to you.
I think they will be coming back shortly for the continuation of the memorandum of understanding, or lease agreement. Mr. Ottaway, do you anticipate that to come in coming weeks?
Yes, I do, Mr. Mayor.
Perfect.
Okay. But we'll keep that in mind, Councillor Papp. Thank you for that. it'd be good to get an update.
Because their annual event's coming up, Mr.
In
Mayor.
November.
In November, yeah.
And I
Okay.
think they wanted to do a kickoff then, so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Papp. We'll keep it in mind. Any others? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Now we move to staff reports requiring action. Thank you very much. It's been moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Lane, that the issue summary report regarding the execution of a development agreement as a condition of consent for applications B5 2013P and B6 2013P Cambro Developments, Inc. be received, and the council receives and considers the request to remove the holding provision affixed to the lands, and the council receives and considers the development agreement with Cambro Developments, Inc. for the subject lands located on the east side of Balfour Street, lying between Welland Road and Cambro Road, legally described as part of Lot 13, Concession 9, former Township of Pelham, now Town of Pelham, and further that council consider the bylaw for the execution of the development agreement and bylaw for the removal of the affixed holding provision as presented later on this evening's agenda. Any discussion? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Durley, second by Councillor King, that the issue summary report regarding the execution site plan agreement for lands located at 15 Highway 20 East, Tia Taylor, under file number SP0114 be received, and the council receives and considers the site plan agreement for the subject lands located at 15 Highway 20 East, legally described as Plan 716, Part Lot 3456, Part 2, RP 59R 7871, Part 1, RP 59R 8007, and further, the council considers a bylaw authorizing the mayor and clerk to enter into a site plan agreement between the town of Pelham and Tia Taylor as presented on this evening's agenda. Any discussion? Questions? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Durley, second by Councillor King, that the council receive the issue summary report regarding the execution of the subdivision agreement for the Rosewood Estate subdivision, file number 26T29-10013 with Hurt Inc. be received, and the council consider the approval of the street name recommended as Rosewood Crescent for this development, and further, the council considers the bylaw for the execution of a subdivision agreement and bylaw for the street name for the Rosewood Estates subdivision. Questions, comments? Councillor Kersey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to perhaps our chief planner here, our director of planning. I couldn't find incorporated in the subdivision agreement whether there's urban design guidelines that will impact on the actual housings that are being built in that area. Many of the more recent subdivisions that we've had in town, we've had urban design guidelines that have run and been registered on title.
Mr. Glover?
That's a fair question. Explicitly, I don't know the answer to that. I wasn't prepared for that question for this meeting, but I believe in the East Fondale secondary plan, there are urban design criteria in that would be employed in this. As for an actual urban design checkoff, like we have had in some lookout point, et cetera, I'd have to get back to council on whether that's applicable here. Unfortunately, I don't know.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, Councillor. Others? Yes, Councillor Durley?
Building on that, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Building on that, if it isn't there, is there a way that we can get it in there?
That's the question.
Mr. Glover?
We can look to see if it is in there, and if it's not in there, we can revisit the agreement and then come back to council with something that includes that perhaps, assuming that there are design guidelines available that we can use. Typically, they're developed as part of the process here, and then we implement them as part of the approval. If the urban design guidelines aren't explicitly here, we'd have to develop them as well. But we can go back and revisit the situation and come back to council if that's what you so choose.
Okay, thank you. Councillor, anything further?
If that works for Councillor Kersey, works for me.
Yeah. Councillor Kersey?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just thinking that rather than hold the process up, would it not be possible to proceed with this with the proviso that the subdivider would agree to entering into an agreement to enforce or have registered on title urban design guidelines that would be suitable to the town. So that way he could proceed with his servicing of the lands, get, the actual building permits are a fair number of months out. That would give us time to review that and sit down with the developer and make sure that he's satisfied and we're satisfied so that we get the subdivision that we want out there. Is that not a reasonable suggestion?
Mr. Glover?
We can definitely design a condition or something to that nature where we proceed on the subdivision on the condition that we, to the satisfaction of the town, I guess Director of Planning, that something is included in the agreement or such that urban design guidelines would be considered here. I don't know what that would be or the extent of it at this point in time, but if it's to the satisfaction of the town, we can at least control that.
Okay, so, Mr. Glover, are you recommending then an addition to this agreement at this point, or are we simply directing staff to look into it, get back to us, and then perhaps we'll direct you further to negotiate? What are you suggesting this evening?
Unfortunately, given the comments by council, I do think this should be held back, the decision, and we reconsider it if council deems that this is an important question to answer. If it's not deemed that important, we should move ahead with the approval, because the approval itself is fine. Again, that urban design question is perhaps unresolved or outstanding, or perhaps I just don't have enough information to give the council this time.
Thank you. So what I'd advise, if that is council's decision, we can still approve this motion, and when we get to the bylaw, I would look for a motion to defer it pending that discussion.
That's right.
Okay?
That's good. Good.
Anything further to that? Okay. There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Lane, second by Councillor Kersey. The council received the recommendation report concerning the official plan amendment OPAM 0114, zoning bylaw amendment AM 0414, and draft plan of subdivision 26T 19-01014 for the lands known as East Font Hill Commercial Area, measuring approximately 21.7 hectares or 53 acres, and being located on the southwest corner of Regional Road 20, Highway 20, and Regional Road 58, Rice Road, in the town of Pelham. And further, the council directs planning staff to prepare and present the necessary adopting bylaws for the subject applications for consideration of council at its September 15th, 2014 meeting. Questions, comments? Councillor Durley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Under corporate policy context, in the preamble to this, there's the goals under our community vision being goal 2, 3, 4, and 5. I think we have missed one important one that we do have in our strategic plan in environmental responsibility, and I think if we could add that to it, when we go into the report, it certainly deals with the ways that we can look at green things and things such as LEED and so on and so forth. But I think if we add it there, it gives it a little more emphasis as well. So I would like perhaps goal 6, environmental responsibility, is something that will go back to our 2014 strategic plan. Like we're looking at greening, and we're looking at making things as environmentally responsible as we can in that. So just a reference to that, I think, would give that just a little more feel.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor. I think staff will look at that and see how they can include that in the report moving forward. Others? This is a long time coming, and certainly appreciate staff. I did mention, Mr. Glover, earlier today that the way the report is lined out, I thought was exceptional in terms of answering each of the specific questions, and then at the end of each of the sections, staff's opinion on each of the areas that have arisen. So it really provides a comprehensive package that perhaps we can look forward to in other reports as well, as opposed to waiting to the end. That we actually, as we move along, okay, check mark with that one, the official plan, check mark with the bylaw, etc. I think it's exceptional to do that. This is, as council knows, a very complicated matter involving many moving parts. And I understand that Mr. Glover did receive comments from some of the commenting agencies as late as 4:30 on Thursday, so he worked very diligently to get this to us to make sure that we met the timelines that we were expecting. So kudos to Mr. Glover. As well to other members of staff for their exceptional assistance on this as well, and making sure that these guidelines are met. Thank you, Mr. CEO, and others that are smiling. But again, this is extremely important. It does fulfill what was talked about at the both at the open house and also at the public meeting, and it addresses those concerns that were raised. Ironically, one concern was about making sure that you know, the environmental piece that Councillor Durley raised was taken care of, and then the other one, to be ironic, was can you move quickly on this, because it's been talked about for a number of years. So it was interesting to see, and I know members of council, especially our senior senators, Councillor Papp and Councillor Durley, have talked about this process and how long it has been. So it's very, very good to make this next step. So thank you again. I also see a representative of the landowners group, the development group here, Mr. Kaiser. Thank you very much for joining us and for your work on this as well to pull it all together in partnership with the town. It's a very exciting development for the community, and we hope that, as Councillor Durley states and points out, and rightly so, that it does meet the goals that we have in our strategic plan, including environmental, but also, as is accentuated in the report, maintaining our small town feel as we grow, providing an environment for economic prosperity, engaging residents in decision-making, which we've done through the entire process for many, many years, and as well enhance the quality of life in our town. And I think we're all looking forward to this development moving forward. So unless there's other comments, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. So 2 bylaws, and Madam Clerk, should we pull this bylaw? Is that what you're suggesting, or we entertain a motion once I put it on the floor? Okay, thank you.
And if that is pulled, I would just suggest that we renumber every subsequent bylaw.
Okay, thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Kersey, second by Councillor Durley and Councillor King, that Council of the Town of Pelham, having given due consideration to the following bylaw, do now read a first and second time, and, I'm sorry, it's Councillor Durley. The number one is, sorry. Do now read a first, second, and third time and do pass the same, and the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to sign and seal the bylaws. 1. Bylaw 3535, 2014, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into a site plan agreement with Tia Taylor for lands located at 15 Highway 20 East. Bylaw number 2, 3536, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into a subdivision agreement with Hurt Inc. That's the Rosewood subdivision. Bylaw number 3, which is the bylaw that council discussed earlier at a bit of length, being a bylaw to designate the street for the development known as Rosewood Estates subdivision as a public highway, and to name the street Rosewood Crescent. That's not the one, it's this one. Where's the holding provision? The holding.
Yeah, that's right.
Bylaw 3538, being a bylaw authorizing the mayor and clerk to enter into a development agreement with Canberra Developments, Inc. for lands located on the south side of Canberra Road, east of Balfour Street, in the town of Pelham. And bylaw 3539, being a bylaw to remove the holding H provisions originally imposed through bylaw 2894. The removal of the H affects parcels legally described as part of Lot 13, Concession 9, former Township of Pelham, now Town of Pelham. Mr. Glover, the Rosewood subdivision, that's the H one, is that correct?
The Rosewood, sorry, just,
Oh, no, it's bylaw number 2.
It's 2.
It's 2, not 3.
It's hurt.
Canberra's H, yeah.
I would defer the Rosewood bylaw until we come back next meeting and resolve that issue with the urban design guideline.
Okay, and Mr. Glover, would you defer both bylaws? The first is the agreement, the subdivision agreement. The second is the naming of the road. Can we
The road is
proceed?
fine, the subdivision agreement is what you had concern with, what the council had concern with.
Okay, so can I have a motion to defer 3536 and have, like, staff look into that and also perhaps discuss the matter with the developer, and then also to renumber the bylaws accordingly. So it's moved by Councillor Papp, second by Councillor Kersey. Any further discussion to that? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion's carried. And now to the remainder of the bylaws. I did want to mention, Ms. Taylor was here earlier, and it was good to see her with the property at 15 Highway 20 East. Again, I think I commented on this before, a great development for the downtown.
Very good.
Looks like some excellent work for the community and taking advantage perhaps of some of the incentives. And finally, an important feature for the community was a walkway between the road in behind and Regional Road 20. So that easement is there, that the town can then construct that walkway. So we look forward to perhaps that coming forward to a 2015 budget that we can put that walkway in. So I'm going to call the question on the other bylaws. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We do have an in-camera item, so as we tend to do, we move it to the end of the evening. So there's a motion by Councillor Lane, second by Councillor Kersey, that Council recess the in-camera portion of the meeting and reconvene immediately following the committee meeting scheduled for this evening. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. We'll now take a brief break. Thank you.
Clean the screen.